former President Uhuru Kenyatta has largely been quiet, especially about Kenyan politics. And we see him sometimes maybe at a church service, maybe we see him, maybe he's attended a meeting about the conflict in DR Congo, or we see him, there was a time him and President William Ruto, I think, went and met, was it the Prime Minister of Ethiopia? I'm not sure. I think that's when they met, when you saw still pictures of them, they had gone to. So he has really tried, I think, to keep off politics and what's been happening until now, when he went to Kirinyaga for the burial of former senator, the first senator of Kirinyaga, who had passed away. So ni hapo sasa ndo ni kana kwamba alifungua roho, because remember, his speech was largely in the Kikuyu language. And one of the things he told them is that he warned the people of the mountain about sweet-tongued politicians. Maybe we can start by listening to that soundbite by the former president about sweet-tongued politicians.
None wega adu ufikiria atogolia. Ego ufikiria ke? Tiateti. Tondorere. Ateti. Nege meta ateti. Mapora wona ukiwa rule.
Okay, that soundbite, we'll try and get the subtitles, but he was talking about how it is good for people to listen to leaders.
Please don't disrupt Jamila's. She's getting somewhere with this.
Hey. Yeah. It is good for people to listen to leaders, not politicians, because politicians, and there are many, have a very sweet tongue. And I warned you, but you didn't listen. Are you listening? You know, he kept saying, are you listening? But a leader is someone who tells you the truth, whether bad or good. Karaba, whose funeral he was attending, stood with me even if the political wind was blowing in a different direction, led by Rigiji here, and others not knowing it is just wind. Karaba stood firm with the truth and didn't mind if you would reject him. He said he would tell his people the truth. Have you seen that truth now? You have seen it? Be wary of politicians and look for leaders. You know, when he said, I warned you, but you didn't listen. If you remember, towards the end of his term, President William Ruto supported the former ODM leader Raila Odinga for president against his own deputy at the time. And towards the end, every time he spoke about his opposition to William Ruto being the next president of the country, and he kept talking to the people in the mountain about not electing him as a leader. But they ended up electing him, I think, and in fact, we'll talk about this later, how William Ruto today was in Central and talked about how I'll not leave this region because of the votes that I got here and Oilini Chagua. But Uhuru had a clear message yesterday. One, from the body language. How him and his former assistant, Rigathi Gachagua, were interacting. The hug, the laughter, is it camaraderie, Yvonne?
Yeah.
Kizungu ni yako. Ndio. Usuhuba kwa Kiswahili tunasema. All that was I think, something that a message was being sent. And I want us to listen to something the former president said on the clergy to keep off politics, and then we'll continue.
Ndamuthaitha na gitio kiingi muno tondu inyuĩ nĩ mwacangĩirie kĩbindi kĩnene mũno gĩa gũtwara andũ aitũ njĩra ĩtagĩrĩire. Nĩguo ndiũĩ nĩ gĩtũmi gĩrĩkũ mwarĩ nacio, nĩ cianyu, no ndamũhoya tigai gũte kĩrĩndĩ gĩkĩ. Nĩguo kĩrĩndĩ gĩkĩ rĩ kĩrenda mũmatongorie ngoro na kiroho, makinye the kingdom of God. No maundu ma thĩ ĩno rĩ tigerai atongoria arĩa moĩ maundu ma thĩ ĩno.
You know, he said something interesting. He said, you participated in a big way in taking our people in the wrong direction. I do not know for what reason, but you know, I kindly urge you to stop misleading the people. And he's also telling the clergy, and reminds me of how during campaigns for 2022, the podium was used quite a bit. Yeah, in terms of campaigns and spreading the political message and all that. And now, even if the clergy tries to turn this around, na kukataza wanasiasa kuzungumza, he talks about how they need to do it right this time. But Yvonne, the one soundbite that we wanted to play, and I think we're going to try and play it later, is how he kept talking about listening and listening and listening, talking about how he is listening. He talked about his former PS, Karanja Kibisho, listening, and he's telling the people, you need to listen. Kuna ujumbe ambao unapitishwa hapa, Yvonne. And even despite Uhuru Kenyatta not being in active politics, I think there are people who were watching this yesterday from that region and thinking, okay, maybe there's something he's saying here. He may not have the influence he did when he was president, because remember, this region voted against him in 2022, and they voted for William Ruto. But seeing him there, seeing Rigathi there, Martha Karua there, and a host of other leaders who are opposed to this government but from that region together in one event, speaking in the same voice, I think there's a message which is being sent there. And maybe partly that's why we saw President William Ruto today in Nyeri talking about how that region is important to him, Yvonne.
Indeed, and as leaders usually do when they want to pass on a message, you do it in mother tongue. Jay, I'll come to you in a moment, but it reminds me of during the campaigns, you remember when he said, uko na maneno tam 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 tam, and you know that ends up being the same thing that he's saying, but he's basically on an I told you spree, and you didn't listen, and now this is what's happening. You know, Jay, interesting time to come out and say some of the things that he's saying, considering everything that's happening in the political sphere.
Like you rightfully said, Yvonne, listening to Uhuru Kenyatta through the translations, it was an I told you so moment. And he was relishing that, because he was mentioning some of these people by name and title. He went for the clergy and told them that last time you misled our people. He told Rigathi Gachagua, you took our people to the wrong direction. So it is interesting to see Uhuru Kenyatta coming back actively in politics, because I think the last time he spoke at a function, he said, hata mimi naonea kwa TV, nitaendelea kuonea tu kwa TV. Yeah. I think amechoka kuonea vitu kwa TV. Sasa do we say amevua
zile gloves
nguo anataka kuogelea? Yes. So it would be interesting to see how these move going forward, because with only about 490 days to the next general elections, Uhuru and the Rigathi team have got one thing in common, that William Ruto is the guy they need to get out of office. And therefore it would be important that his place in either opposition or whatever formation he wants is very, very active, because he has a sizable number of people that listen to him. He has a huge following, especially in Mount Kenya region, that would be interested in knowing the direction he wants them to follow. And for me, this was more like a launching pad for him, that going forward, he will be seen to be very active in local politics and trying to give direction. Like he said, amekuwa Ishaweri, anasikiza ground, amesikiza Kibisho, pia alikuwa mashinani, anasikiza ground. So he's trying to tell them, I'm back.
Yeah.
Nasikiza ground, but the message here is that we must be united. Our politics is very ethnic. And why do we go back to that ethnic pot? So that we can capture power. So he sees an opportunity for him uniting with Rigathi Gachagua and trying to find how best do we do this mission that we have. But I see some challenges. He has a candidate. Does his candidate fit in the whole spectrum of the united opposition? Does his candidate have what it takes? He will have to evaluate all this and see whether I proceed with my candidate or I abandon my candidate and stick with this formation that seems like it can do what we want to do. I still believe Uhuru Kenyatta has got this one final request in his heart, to challenge William Ruto and challenge him with finality. And he's looking for that platform that will give him that sweet victory that he hopes for. However, within the formation that seems more likely, there are a few things that he has to deal with. There are small aspects of bad manners that were shown at him, especially at the beginning of this administration. Is he willing to forgive? Is he willing to forget? Is he willing to sit back and say, that was that, let's move on? Again, the issue of Mount Kenya kingpin comes to play. Is he willing to cede that to somebody else, or they will be in this formation and still struggle on who becomes the voice of the mountain? So for me, while it is a launchpad for him into the next phase of our campaign cycles to try and show the people the direction, there are a few other things that he must deal with, and even within that formation, especially at the Mount Kenya level, before they go to the wider united opposition, that they must handle vitu za nyumbani that would really dictate